response, allow me to change the track of the discussion from US to India.
Please.
In order to facilitate the In order to facilitate this track change, let me present a view from within our research tradition, that Professor Babu is part of. The theme of the roundtable, as we all know, is freedom of religion and religious conversion. And the issue that the roundtable wants to discuss is this. The 20th century debate on religious conversion in India comprises of two important or dominant positions, the so-called Hindu fundamentalist groups and the Indian secular forces. The former takes anti-conversion stance. It says, in order to protect Indian traditions, conversion, according to this stance, disrupts various aspects of Indian culture and traditions, which results in violence. The pro-conversion groups defend conversion on some of these grounds. A, conversion is part of freedom of religion, and allowing conversion is a way of safeguarding religious freedom of Indians. B, conversion has been used by the oppressed castes in India as a social mechanism of overturning the hierarchy-ridden Indian caste system. C, a secular state should not interfere in religious matters. 4, banning conversion amounts to a breach of right to religious freedom and in turn a threat to the secular nature of India. This creates a huge problem for Indian state. What should Indian state do in such a situation? The problem that Dr. Sullivan identifies is the problem of lack of religious freedom in the face of what she identifies as a kind of forced religious conversion practiced by the US government in its prisons. Even though religious freedom as such is not possible, she says, it is desirable that people have sufficient freedom in religious issues. If so, the immediate question that gets raised is this: how should a state ensure that its citizens enjoy religious freedom? The popular solution is to make some or other law that will ensure the citizens have a constitutionally protected right to practice a religion and protect the practitioners of a religion. One of the ways the US government can ensure this is by, say, making available multiple options in religious matters to citizens. The example she gives is the crisis in the US prisons, and the ideal solution that she suggests is to offer multiple religious training to the prisoners. But she also reminds us that such a process will curb freedom of religion rather than granting it. For the following two reasons. The solution, though seems possible, is not easy to administer in the present political, social, and religious context in the US because A, the impossibility of fairly delimiting the contours of contemporary religious life, and B, the incapacity of law. There is a distinction between lived religion and law, she says, and an important reason for this disjunction is the fact that we do not yet know how to define or how to understand religion. I completely agree with you on these 2 points. One, entry of state into conversion issue muddles the situation rather than clearing it. And 2, there is a lack of clarity on the issue of what religion is and what it is not. This ignorance is in fact aggravating the problem. So far, so good. However, in all the discussion, we have avoided the most important issue of practical solution to conversion controversies and a state or society and its role in the controversies. What should a state do when a controversy about, say, conversion takes up? The solution that Dr. Sullivan suggests is this. Let's remember that she is talking about US and not India, but I quote her, law should ignore religion, regulating all activity, whether or not religious, through laws of universal application, without an effort to protect or to discriminate among religions. Religious actors and communities should receive no special legal treatment, positive or negative, because they are religious. Unquote. If this indeed is a solution, what puzzles me is this. How is this going to solve any problem? In the midst of a raging controversy about conversion, as it's happening in India now, how can law ignore religion? What exactly does it mean? She also suggests that law should treat issues related to religion without an effort to protect or to discriminate among religions. What does this mean in practice? Should state or law just remain passive witness of religious conflicts in the society? Surely not. Dr. Sullivan may say that law should probably treat such conflicts as nothing more than other criminal incidents. This is a worth considering option. It may work in the cases of criminal incidents, but I want to know what a state should do in the kind of situation that I'll describe now. But before that, let me add a word of caution here. I'm not pretending that the responsibility of finding a solution to this problem is on the shoulders of Dr. Sullivan. It's thanks to her for pointing out this problem, and it's a collective responsibility of the panels at least to discuss this issue here. But the question remains, what should state do, at least in the case, the kind of controversies that India is facing? And the situation that I want to describe is this. Giving religious freedom of any kind or amount will not work in the case of Hindus versus Semitic religions in the Indian context. The suggestion that Dr. Sullivan gives that religious actors and communities should receive no special legal treatment, positive or negative, because they are religious, will not work in the case of India. In order to explain why this is so, let me draw your attention to what is happening in India at the present. Religious conversion is a problem in India when Islam or Christianity tries to convert people from Hinduism, and not when Muslims convert into Christianity or Christians convert into Islam. As we said earlier, there are two dominant positions related to conversion in India today: those who are in favor of conversion and those who are against it. People who are in favor of conversion see conversion as a mechanism of social liberation, and those who oppose it see conversion as something that disturbs the composure of Indian traditions, the social fabric, or the culture of India. I think the resultant situation is far more complex and difficult to solve than the situation in the US. If we ever find out a way of giving freedom of religion to the US citizens, I think most of the problems related to conversion will get solved. Opposite is the case in India. The only two options available to Indian state is either to take the side of anti-conversion people and place checks on proselytization, such as enacting anti-conversion laws, or to take a stance in favor of pro-conversion lobby and grant the permission for free conversion. Since these two options are mutually exclusive, there will be no neutral ground between the two. Hence, Indian state cannot remain neutral in the conversion issue, as it could probably in the US. Giving any kind of religious freedom in India will seriously curtail the freedom of one or another community. If so, the question again remains, what should Indian state do? Finally, Dr. Sullivan seems to suggest that there is only one option before us today to develop a better understanding of, or a theory of religion that tells us what religion is and what it is not. I not only agree with her on that, but also think that this conference is a step towards building a new theory of religion, or at least strengthening the theories, one theory that we have. I'll end it on that, and we'll see how the discussion goes and before entering again. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan, for your very thoughtful responses. I take them as being mainly friendly and the beginning of a conversation, so I'll just make a couple of responses. One of your comments, Duncan, had to do with the kind of class or elitist structure to this problem in the Indian context, that conversion is seen as being, or the defense of conversion, or the right to conversion is seen as a kind of elitist. Did I understand that correctly? Maybe I
didn't say it's elitist, but...
Oh, or perhaps I misunderstood then. But I think, though, that in the U.S. context, there's probably some of that also, that there are, I didn't talk about that, but that there are certainly, as in the Indian context, it's complex, and it's not only about religious conversion, and there are other political and class-based issues as well. In drawing a sharp contrast between the U.S. and India, and I certainly did not come here with the view of offering a solution to Indian problems. I don't know enough about them, and I don't have a solution in any event. But I do think that one way in which they're more similar than perhaps you allowed is that I think the problem both in U.S. prisons and in the Indian case may be in conversion, and that the emphasis, on coercion, coercion. The problem is coercion, and coercion is something that the law and politics are better at dealing with than religion. So I don't think that necessarily just because at this moment violence of a much more extreme kind may be present in some Indian context, that necessarily that makes it completely different from what I was talking about in the prisons. And what I see as a problem in the U.S. prisons is coercion. Everything that happens in prisons is violent. There is no such thing as freedom in prisons. And so that I think that there is an analogy in that sense.